Inshallah, we'll start in just about a minute. All right, we're going to go ahead and start, inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. For the love of our beloved Prophet and his beloved progeny, wherever you are, recite a salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad. I hope everyone is doing well, inshallah. And as we have been continuing with the story of Yusuf alayhi salam, we will continue with that topic today, inshallah, as well. Before I start, inshallah, I want to go through the names of the marhumin, of the sponsors of tonight's program. And inshallah, we'll recite a surah Fatiha for them in all of the marhumin. And inshallah, we'll dive right into the program. Please recite Surah Fatiha for Brother Marhumin of Brother Mazhar Abbas and Sister Mehnaz and family, Dr. Agha and Dr. Uzma Mehdi and family, Brother Ali and Sister Farwa Siddiqi and family, and Bande Khuda and also another Bande Khuda. Recite Surah Fatiha for their marhumin and all of your marhumin with a loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Assalamu alaikum to everybody who's joining. Very happy to have you guys with us. As we normally do, before I start, I'm going to go through the dua of today, the 7th dua of the month of Ramadan. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma a'inni fihi ala siyamihi wa qiyamih. Ya Allah, help me in this day, give me the strength, give me the opportunity to do two things, to do siyam and qiyam, to help me take on the fasting of this day and to help me to take on the worshipping of this day, the ibadah, the praying on this day. Help me go through both of these. وَجَنِّبْنِ فِيهِ مِنْ حَفَوَاتِهِ وَآثَامِهِ. And help me distance myself from the mistakes of this day and from the sins that this day could potentially have in store for me. وَارْزُقْنِي فِيهِ ذِكْرِكَ بِدَوَامِهِ. And help me, give me the opportunity to remember you on this day, throughout the whole day, consistently. بِتَوْفِيقِكَ يَا هَادِيَ الْمُضِلِّينَ. With your tawfiq and with your help and assistance, O the one who guides those who are misguided, the ones who are lost. You are the ones who gives them guidance. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He answers our dua, inshallah. Okay, as we normally do, I'm going to do a quick review, inshallah, of what we have discussed so far, and then right after that we will delve into the topic that we will be discussing for today. We started out and we started explaining the story of Yusuf alayhi salam. We said that his story starts at the age of 9, and we went ahead with this story for a number of nights Yesterday we reached this point in the story of Yusuf alayhi salam, that the brothers of Yusuf were able to come to Yaqub alayhi salam. They were able to speak to Yaqub in a special way in order to get Yaqub to send Yusuf with them. We said that there is a reason why Yaqub is giving up Yusuf. When the brothers of Yusuf come, they say, Ya Abana, ma laka la ta'manna ala Yusuf. When the brothers of Yusuf come, they say, why is it that you don't trust us with Yusuf? There is a reason why Yaqub is giving up Yusuf. It's not that Yaqub is naive. It's not that Yaqub doesn't know what he's doing. He very well knows that the brothers of Yusuf are not the most trustworthy. He very well knows that the brothers of Yusuf might take him and hurt him. But Yaqub gives him up for another reason. We said the reason for this fundamentally is because Yaqub knows that he can't keep his child by his side for the rest of his life. At the end of the day, Yusuf has to be able to live a normal life. And if he's living a life where his brothers are out to get him, eventually this is going to happen. And that's why Yaqub, even though he doesn't like it, he sends Yusuf to go with his brothers on this adventure or this day trip that they said. They said, we are going to take Yusuf to do two things. Yarta' wa yal'ab. We are going to take Yusuf so that he would eat from the fruits, wa yal'ab, and that he would play. And he will stay with us. In as much as their father told them that he was afraid about the wolves coming and attacking Yusuf, they said, وَنَحْنُ عُصْبَةٌ. They said, we're strong, we're powerful. We have nothing to worry about if Yusuf is going to be with us. Another point that we talked about yesterday, and I want to delve into it a little bit more today, was this. The question that arises, not just in the story of Yusuf alayhi salam, in fact, in the story of every prophet that has gone through any tribulation and trial. And in fact, also in the lives of our imams as well, is this question. If the imams and the prophets, they had knowledge of the future, if they had knowledge of the unseen, wouldn't they be able to see what was going to happen in the future? We answered this, and we said that this answer has two sides to it. The first side of this answer was this, that yes, it is possible that a prophet or an imam, he might know the future. But even though he knows the future, or he knows the unseen, he knows the things that other people do not know, still he is commanded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to act and behave and conduct himself based on the limited knowledge that he might have. In other words, there might be time where he knows something is going to happen, but because he knows Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants that incident to take place, he will not prevent it from happening. It's interesting because in the life of Ali ibn Abi Talib, we see this very commonly and very frequently. We know that Ali ibn Abi Talib had this immense knowledge. If we were not to say that he knew everything there is to know, we knew that he knows more than the previous prophets. We know that for a fact. Okay. Now Ali ibn Abi Talib, we know that for a number of years in his life, maybe not most of his life, maybe around 4 or 5 years of his life, where he was Khalifa, and he was Qadi al-Qudat, and he was the one who was in charge of passing judgments on people's different situations that they came to him with. We know that during this time, although he had knowledge of what this person might have done, he was commanded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to pass judgment based on the evidence that was presented to him, and to not pass judgment based on the knowledge that he had in his mind. This means what? This means that there might have been a situation where someone comes to Ali ibn Abi Talib, and Ali ibn Abi Talib knows that he is right, or he might know that the opposition is right. But Ali ibn Abi Talib, he cannot pass judgment based on this immense knowledge that he has. That immense knowledge is there for him, between him and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is commanded, he is taught to pass judgment based on the knowledge that people present to him, the evidence that people present to him. This is something that Ali ibn Abi Talib used to do. In fact, what we find in the verses of the Quran, in the story of Dawood alayhi salam in particular, is that when Dawood alayhi salam had this immense knowledge, and he knew already he could be speaking to one side of this judgment that is brought to him, of this situation that is brought to him. He could have been speaking to one side of the two oppositions. He would know who is telling the truth and who is not telling the truth. But still he was commanded to hear what the other side has to say and then pass his judgment. And this shows that even the prophets, if they had knowledge of what was really happening in the situation, they were still commanded, they were still taught to act based on the evidence that is provided to them. In the story of Prophet Dawood, we read in the verses of the Quran that there was a situation that was presented to him. This situation was that two people came to Dawood alayhi salam. One of them, he had cattle, he had 99 cattle. The other one had one, and these two were brothers with one another, and they were also partners of one another as well. The one who had one of these cattle, he turned to Dawood alayhi salam. He said, listen, this brother of mine, who is also a partner of mine, he has 99. He wants to take this last one that I have. And Dawood alayhi salam, having that knowledge and knowing what's going on in this situation, he passed judgment. He said that what your brother is saying doesn't make sense. You are not to listen to him. It is wrong of him to ask to take that one last cattle that you have and add to the 99 that you have. And then the verses of the Quran were revealed, and the verses of the Quran, they admonished Dawood alayhi salam. And they told Dawood alayhi salam that even though his judgment was the correct judgment, he still was not supposed to pass judgment without hearing what the other side had to say. What does this teach us? This teaches us that even if prophets and imams had this immense knowledge, still when it came to situations where they wanted, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted something to happen, they were taught to go based off of the knowledge that was presented to them, and not based off of the knowledge that they had through Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, having understood that, even if we say Yaqub did not know what was going to happen in the future, simply because he was suspicious of the brothers, why would it make sense for him to send Yusuf alayhi salam with his brothers? We said because it wouldn't make sense for Yaqub to hold on to his child for the next 50 or 60 years of his life, knowing that his brothers are around him and his brothers are jealous. At one point, Yaqub has to allow for Yusuf to live a normal life. Okay, we talked about this yesterday. Moved on from this. The next lesson we took from the life of Yusuf alayhi salam and from his story was this, that when the brothers approached the father and they said that we want to take Yusuf, Yaqub was very careful in the words that he chose. Yaqub didn't jump to this conclusion, or essentially jump to this point in the presence of the brothers and tell them, listen, I don't trust you with Yusuf. I don't want you to be around Yusuf. That's not what Yaqub alayhi salam did. What did Yaqub do? What Yaqub did instead was he chose his words very carefully, and he told the brothers, إِنِّي لَيَحْزُنُنِي أَن تَذْهَبُوا بِهِ. It makes me sad when you take Yusuf away. He doesn't want to speak of the fact that he doesn't trust the brothers of Yusuf, because if he were to do this, this would only increase the jealousy of the brothers of Yusuf. So the first reason that he presented was this: it makes me sad when you take Yusuf away from me. Number one. Number two, وَأَخَافُ أَن يَأْكُلَهُ الذِّئْبُ. And I'm afraid that if you guys take him and you guys aren't paying attention, وَأَنْتُمْ عَنْهُ غَافِلُونَ, that a wolf will come and attack him, and then I will lose my Yusuf. So he presented two reasons that would not raise sensitivity when it came to the brothers of Yusuf, and at the same time, the both reasons that he presented were actually true. It did make him sad to leave Yusuf behind, or to be distanced from Yusuf, and it did worry him that Yusuf would be attacked by a wolf when they take him out to the desert. But in this was a lesson from a prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, dealing with an ignorant group of people, teaching us that when you are dealing with jahil, when you are dealing with a person who is ignorant, you are not to get entangled with them. You are not to open your mouth and just say anything that comes to your mind, even if what you are saying holds truth in it. Even if what you are saying holds value to it. You are not to open up everything. You are to speak and choose your words very carefully. Okay, moving on from that, we said that when Yusuf went with these brothers, فَلَمَّا ذَهَبُوا بِهِ, as long as Yaqub could see them, and as long as these brothers were in the eyesight of Yaqub, they were kind to him. They were nice to him. Until they left the eyesight of Yaqub, then they started to beat Yusuf, hadith says. And then as they were beating Yusuf, they say that Yusuf smiled, and he took that lesson that now I realized I am not to rely on anyone except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even my brothers. Because growing up, I could see you, my brothers, as strong brothers. I would have assumed that I could rely on you. But now that I see you're dealing with me in this way, I have realized that even you, I cannot have hope in anymore. Okay, this is where we ended yesterday. The hadith says that when they took Yusuf alayhi salam and they wanted to put him inside of the well, as they were placing him inside of the well, they took off his shirt. And this just shows you more of the cruelty of the brothers of Yusuf. That they took off his shirt, and of course they were going to use that shirt to then go to their father and to come up with that excuse and that lie that they were going to come up with. But when they took off his shirt, Yusuf called them out. Yusuf said, listen, leave my shirt with me so that even if I die in this well, that it would cover my body. And they said, listen, you don't need a shirt based on this hadith. You can go and get a shirt from those people who respect you. You can go and get a shirt from those same stars and the sun and the moon that we have heard have been prostrating to you. They were mocking Yusuf in this type of a difficult situation. And we said yesterday that when Yusuf was placed inside of this well, that he was alone. And the verses of the Quran, they jumped over this part in order to show how painful this moment was for Yusuf on one hand and for Yaqub on the other hand. Hadith says that when Yusuf was at the bottom of this well, that Jibreel approached him and taught him two things. He taught him a dua to recite, to make him feel comfortable, to make him know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is there with him. And he also taught him to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by the right of Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad to save him from the well. This dua that he taught him goes like this: Allahumma ya munisa kulla gharib. Ya Allah, you are the one who is acquainted with everyone who is gharib. Everyone who is lonely, who has no one else that is there with them. You are their munis. You are the one who is there with them. Wa ya sahiba kulla wahid. You are the companion of every lonely person. Wa ya malja'a kulla khaif. You are the one that people take refuge in whenever they are afraid, whenever they have fear in their hearts. وَيَا كَاشِفَ كُلَّ كُرْبَةٍ. You are the one who removes difficulties from people's lives. وَيَا عَالِمَ كُلَّ نَجْوَى. You are the one who knows every single whisper. Yusuf is in the well. He's whispering at this point. No one else can hear the voice of Yusuf at this point. You're the one who hears the whisper of every individual. وَيَا مُنْتَهَا كُلَّ شَكْوَى. And you are the one who everyone brings their complaints to. Jibreel taught this dua to him. And then he taught him also to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to save him from this well by the right of Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Okay. The brothers of Yusuf are now going to return back to Yaqub. وَجَاءُوا عَلَىٰ قَمِيسِهِ بِدَمٍ كَذِبٍ. They came to Yaqub at evening time and they brought with them a shirt that had this blood on it. What did they say? They said that, listen, Yaqub, father, Yusuf is dead now. But Yaqub did not buy this. قَالَ بَلْ سَوَّلَتْ لَكُمْ أَنفُسُكُمْ أَمْرًا. Yaqub said, listen, I know that Yusuf is alive. I know that you have taken Yusuf and you've done something to him. But I know that Yusuf is still alive. بَلْ سَوَّلَتْ لَكُمْ أَنفُسُكُمْ أَمْرًا. Sawwala, taswil, means when you take something that is ugly and you adorn it. You make it look beautiful. Taswil means tazyin, when you put zinat on something. He was saying that Shaitan has taken this bad deed, he has made it look nice in your eyes. In other words, I know that Shaitan is doing something with you. Otherwise, I know that this story that you're telling me, that Yusuf came and that he was there with our stuff and that we were out there running and racing and we forgot about Yusuf and a wolf attacked him. I know that this is not what happens. Okay. فَصَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ. Therefore, I will be patient, but I will display beautiful and graceful patience. وَاللَّهُ الْمُسْتَعَانُ عَلَى مَا تَصِفُونَ. Okay, a couple of points here. What is this beautiful patience that Yaqub alayhi salam is talking about? What is this graceful patience that Yusuf or Yaqub is talking about? This graceful patience that Yaqub alayhi salam is referring to means this. When we go through difficulties in life, we know that these difficulties, there are a test. And the test in these difficulties is to see who is going to break under this pressure and who is not going to break under this pressure. Who will turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and show that he is unsatisfied or dissatisfied with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and who, even if he is going through this difficult time, will still be satisfied with the qada and the qadar and the decisions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala about his life. Now, we know in Islam that when we go through difficult times, complaining about them, speaking about them, sharing these difficulties, this is not necessarily a sin. It is not a problem necessarily to open up to someone, especially if that individual is a close person to you. It is no problem for you to speak of your difficulties, of your struggles, and we know this even better today, and science has shed light on this even today, that this is even part of a therapeutical process. It's therapeutic to talk about and to walk through the difficulties that you have gone through, especially if they have a traumatic side and a traumatic aspect to them. Okay. But what Yaqub alayhi salam is talking about here is that he is not just going to be patient. He is not going to complain about it while just still being satisfied with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, having made this decision about his life. Yaqub is going to take it a step forward, and this is what we would expect of a prophet as well. Yaqub is going to make sure that even if he is going to complain about this, he is not going to go and complain to others. He is only going to complain to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is something that is very difficult to do, much easier said than done. That when you're going through such a difficult time, that you've lost your son, and by the way, Yaqub knows that his son is alive, and he knows his son is only a day away. Because his brothers went for a day trip, the brothers of Yusuf, and they came back without Yusuf anymore. So Yaqub knows his son is alive, and he knows he's only a day away. He's right around here. As he is going through this difficult time, he says, I will be patient, but I'm going to display beautiful patience. This is the type of patience where not only are you okay with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala making a decision about your life, but also you don't go and complain to anybody and everybody. You take your complaints to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, this is something that you see in a prophet. I will say this, only people like Yaqub can do something like this. This is not something that we can take in our life and apply it to the same extent and to the same measure. But what we can take from this part of the story of Yusuf, this lesson that we can learn from Yaqub, is this, that when we are going through difficult times, it is not a good attribute for us as a mu'min or as mu'mineen to then go and speak of our difficulties at any and every time. To create an atmosphere as if our life is so full of difficulties that anytime any discussion comes up, it leads to us talking about our difficulties and our pains and our struggles. This is something that in Islam is not very recommended. In Islam, you are recommended as a mu'min, as a Muslim, that even if you have your difficulties, and if you speak to those who are close to you at certain times, that you don't bring up this difficulty and this complaint of yours when you are talking to absolutely anybody and everybody. And that you don't create an atmosphere that becomes a negative and depressing atmosphere. If you have to speak to a counselor, absolutely. If you have to speak to someone who is close to you, absolutely. There's no doubt about that. These are all good and recommended. But when it comes to dealing with other people, that I go and I open up to anybody and everybody, and any discussion I'm having, it leads to what? To this struggle and this pain and this difficulty that I'm going through. What does this create? This creates an atmosphere of negativity. This creates an atmosphere of darkness, right? An atmosphere where you paint a picture, where you are creating a depressing atmosphere. This is not a person who has depression. That is a matter of mental health. They have to deal with that when it comes to the experts and the professionals. No, this person is not depressed. He is dealing with something in his life. He is not to go and speak of this difficulty every second and paint his life in this dark manner as if there's nothing to be happy about it anymore. This is sabrun jamil. This is what we can take from the story of Yaqub and implement in our own lives. And even if it's not something as difficult as Yaqub was going through, maybe I have a little difficulty that I'm dealing with. Maybe I have a little sickness. Maybe I have a little issue that I'm dealing with. This is not supposed to come up over and over again. Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi, in that famous khutbah of his that he has when he is describing the muttaqeen, he is describing the true believers to his companion Hammam. He says, Ya Hammam, al-mu'minu kayyisun fatin. A mu'min, he is smart, he is strategic. Bishruhu fi wajhih. His happiness is in his face. وَحُزْنُهُ فِي قَلْبِهِ. And his sadness is in his heart. What does that mean? That means that when he is going through the difficulties of life, he tries to keep his difficulties to himself. He doesn't make the atmosphere dark when he's spending time with his friends by bringing up all of the difficulties that he's going through. No, his happiness is for the people. His sadness is in his heart. He keeps his sadness to himself, or maybe he speaks of his sadness and his difficulty to those who are close to him, a wife, a mother, a father, a counselor, right? A psychologist. These are individuals that you speak to. These are individuals that you open up to. But when it comes to any stranger, do I speak up and I open up about all of my life to them? No, this is not something that has been recommended in Islam. He said, فَصَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ. I am going to display a patience for you. It's not normal patience. It is beautiful, or what I would call graceful patience. Okay, this is the first step. I'm going to be patient as we're going through this. وَاللَّهُ الْمُسْتَعَانُ عَلَى مَا تَصِفُونَ. And at the same time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that I will ask for help, and I will do tawakkul on Him, so that He will solve this situation. What Yaqub was referring to is a very delicate point. Allama Tabatabai talks about this in the verses of the Quran in his tafsir. He says Yaqub was talking about two wings, two tools that a mu'min has to have with him when he's going through a difficult time. The first wing and tool is patience. Then he has to be patient until the situation is solved. But at the same time, he has to have tawakkul. He has to rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that while he is patient, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will go to work for him, and that He will solve this situation for him. Yaqub said, فَصَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ. I am going to be patient, and at the same time, I'm going to rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to solve this situation while I am patient. Now, Yaqub, because he is doing tawakkul, if there was anything that he could do about this situation, he would have done it. If you see Yaqub sitting there and crying, you see him sitting there and being sad, it's because there was nothing else that he could do about this situation. It's not that he could do something about this and that he's not even going to look for Yusuf. No, if he wanted to look for Yusuf, the only way to find Yusuf would be to ask these brothers. And these brothers are the ones themselves who are trying to get rid of Yusuf. If Yaqub wanted to get Yusuf back to him, he had to get his brothers to go out and search for him. But these brothers do not want that, obviously. And that is why it looks like Yaqub is sitting there as if he's doing nothing. But his tawakkul is there because there was nothing else for Yaqub to do at this point. Recite a salawat, please. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. This is why we find in hadith, when it comes to the Prophet salawatullahi alayhi, when he lost his son Ibrahim, that when people came to him, they said, "O Prophet of Allah, you're losing your son, and he's passed away, and he's died now, but you're crying so heavily." The Prophet said that yes, the eyes cry, the heart takes on this pain and sadness of grief, but the only thing that I make sure it won't happen is that I will never say anything to displease Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm going to hold on to this difficulty that I have. This is what we call graceful patience that Yaqub alayhi salam was portraying here. Okay, now that this is the first night essentially, that Yusuf is in the well, and he is alone, and Yaqub is going through this difficult time. Maybe he is conscious, or based on some ahadith it says that he fainted when he heard this news, and that he fainted until the next morning. So regardless, they are going through difficult times. We read in a hadith from the fourth Imam salawatullahi alayhi by one of his companions by the name of Abi Hamza Thumali. Abu Hamza Thumali says that one day I was in the city of Medina and I came across the house of the fourth Imam. And I saw that the fourth Imam, he is taking food and he is giving out food. And he told his servants that to make sure that this food gets to everybody who comes by and asks for the food, to not withhold from anybody. Abu Hamza says, I was very surprised. I went to the fourth Imam. I asked the fourth Imam. I said, Ya Imam Zain al-Abidin, what's going on? Why do you emphasize so much that the food gets to everybody? He said, listen, I want to make sure that what happened to Yaqub and his family does not happen to us. The fourth Imam in this hadith is explaining the reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought about this difficulty in the life of Yaqub alayhi salam. He says, we don't want that to happen to us and our family. And Abu Hamza says, what happened to Yaqub? What did Yaqub do that Yusuf went through that trial and tribulation, and Yaqub went through that trial and tribulation? And the fourth Imam then starts to explain. He says, in the life of Yaqub, every day, there was one of his sheep that they would take, they would slaughter this sheep, and they would make food for their own household, and they would also make food for other people who were poor and needy in that village. And one of the days, which was a Friday, they did the same thing. They made this food for themselves, and they also started to give out food to others. And there was this one man who came to the house of Yaqub, who came to the door of Yaqub alayhi salam, and he asked for food. But the family of Yaqub, they did not know this individual. They did not know if he was truly poor or not. Not that they knew he was poor. They didn't know if he was poor or not. And because of that, they did not give food to him. And this young man walked away from the house of Yaqub, and he was walking at the night time, and he was praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and complaining to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whereas the family of Yaqub, they had had their dinner, and they ended up with extra food as well. And this man complained to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that in this village there's not one person to give me the food that I need. The fourth Imam continues to explain that this is why the family of Yaqub alayhi salam was put through this difficulty of losing Yusuf for this long period of time. The fourth Imam goes on to explain. He says, at that time Yaqub was addressed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that there was one of my servants that even though you didn't know if he was poor or not, you didn't give him food at the end of the day. At the end of the day, he walked away from your door empty-handed. Because of this, Yaqub, because I love you so much, because you are such a close servant of mine, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put you through a difficulty, and I'm going to admonish you for this small mistake that you have done. This is not a sin. It is a small mistake. It is considered a mistake for a prophet, not for us, but for a prophet who is that great. And he said this, he said, Yaqub, the reason why I will put you through this difficulty is because when my close servants do something wrong, I put them through difficulty faster and sooner. Before my bad servants, I put them through difficulty. It is because I love you that I want to admonish you in this manner. The hadith continues. At the end of the hadith, the fourth Imam says, that same night that this person walked away hungry from the door of the house of Yaqub was the same night that Yusuf saw that dream of the 11 stars bowing down to him, along with the sun and the moon. This is what led, based on this hadith, to Yaqub spending these days and nights, which would continue for 20 or 30 years, of being away from Yusuf alayhi salam, because of this one small mistake that he made. Now, what lesson can we learn from this? This is for a prophet, brothers and sisters. This is not what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expects from us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not expect from us that if someone comes and asks and we don't even know if they need this money or not, that we don't give it to them, or we do give it to them. This is not what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expects from us. But what He does expect from us, and what we can say for sure, is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expects from us that when we do know someone is out there who is in need, that we do not turn them away from our door. And in the hadith you saw that that man, he came and asked, he said, from the extra food that you have, if you would give to me. And he walked away hungry. And this is exactly what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not expecting us, these low servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, people like you and me, to give away from our own food. No, you can have your food. But when you feel full and you have extra from your food or from your wealth or from your knowledge or from your emotional support that you can give to somebody, whatever it is that you have, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expects you from the extra amount that you have to then give. Yes, the things that we need for our own, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not expect us to give from the things that we need ourselves. That's the expectation He has from the Prophet, the expectation He has from Ali ibn Abi Talib. وَيُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ وَلَوْ كَانَ بِهِمْ خَصَاصَةٌ. They give when they are in need themselves. We are not even near that level. At least what we can do is when we have extra, that we can give away from the things that we have extra. That expectation Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does have from us. And the question that we have to ask ourselves is, do we not have extra? We all have extra. 99% of us hearing and listening this, we have extra. All it takes is to take a hand into our pocket and give in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to those who we know for sure, in fact, that they are in need of our help, inshallah. Okay. So this is what led to Yaqub dealing with this trial and tribulation based on this hadith. And again, I'm emphasizing that when this hadith says that this person walked away in the family of Yaqub, they didn't know if he was poor or not. And still Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put him through this difficulty. This is for the close servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For us, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expects that at least those that we do know for sure they are in need, that we help them out and that we give from our wealth, our money, our time, our energy, our emotional support, even if it is sometimes to them at least. Okay. وَجَاءَتْ سَيَّارَةٌ. The brothers of Yusuf left Yusuf there in the well. And these were difficult moments for Yusuf because he didn't know what to expect. We are looking at this story in hindsight. And we're looking at the story of Yusuf and seeing that Yusuf went from the bottom of that well to the very peak of an empire. But Yusuf doesn't know this. Yaqub doesn't know this necessarily, that he's going to go from this lowest point that he's at to then having Yusuf come back to him one day. These are difficult moments for Yaqub. Now, وَجَاءَتْ سَيَّارَةٌ. As Yusuf is in this well, probably the next day, a caravan came to pass by this well. And as caravans would normally do, they took this person who was in charge of grabbing water. He went to the well and he threw down his tool to grab up some of the water. And as the verses of the Quran says, فَأَدْلَى دَلْوَةً, he started to pull back up this tool of his, this bucket of his, to grab some water. And he said, Ya Bushra, hada ghulam. He said, look at what I found. I found this young little boy. And he was so happy, maybe because Yusuf, of course, was so attractive, right? Not just in the way he looked, but also in the way he talked, also in the way he interacted with others. Ya Bushra hada ghulam. وَأَسَرُّوهُ بَضَاعَةً. Because they didn't know who is the owner of this child. They didn't know where this child has come from. They covered this child up. They hid this child from the other caravans, from the other people. وَاللَّهُ عَلِيمٌ بِمَا يَعْمَلُونَ. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was watching them. As everything is unfolding in the life of Yusuf alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching them. Now, when it comes to the next verse, as I'll move on from this, it says that they sold Yusuf alayhi salam, but they sold him to a very small amount. There is a difference of opinion as it relates to this verse. Was this the brothers of Yusuf who came and found Yusuf at the same time that this caravan came and told them that this is our brother and we will sell him to you with a very small price? Is this what the verse is talking about, as you find in the series, if you've watched the series? Or is the verse saying that this caravan moved on and the brothers of Yusuf never even came? This caravan came and moved on and took Yusuf to Egypt and sold him in Egypt. There is a difference of opinion as to what this verse of the Quran is relating to. And some of the Mufassirin, they actually prefer the opinion that the brothers of Yusuf did not come back. This is the caravan who is now taking Yusuf alayhi salam to Egypt and selling him in Egypt. Nonetheless, I will go with that opinion and we'll continue with the story, but that there is another opinion like I mentioned. وَشَرَوْهُ بِثَمَنٍ بَخْسٍ. And they sold him at a very small amount. دَرَاهِمَ مَعْدُودَةٍ وَكَانُوا فِيهِ مِنَ الزَّاهِدِينَ. They really held back when it came to selling Yusuf alayhi salam. Why were they trying to hold back when it came to selling Yusuf alayhi salam? Because essentially Yusuf alayhi salam was a stolen piece of wealth. They didn't own Yusuf. They just found him in the middle of a well. So because of this, when they came to Egypt, they wanted to sell Yusuf and get rid of him faster, so that the people who actually own Yusuf, if they are in Egypt, that they could not come to them and ask them for Yusuf at that point. Similar to when sometimes somebody might want to steal something. When they steal something, they can't bargain too much on that price. They can't bargain and have a back and forth with customers. Why? Because they have to liquidate this object that they stole. The verses of the Quran are saying that this caravan also, because they came to Egypt, they sold Yusuf very easily because they just wanted to get rid of him and make some money out of getting Yusuf. وَشَرَوْهُ بِثَمَنٍ بَخْسٍ. They brought his price down. وَكَانُوا فِيهِ مِنَ الزَّاهِدِينَ. And they held back when it came to the price of Yusuf just to get rid of Yusuf. Okay. وَقَالَ الَّذِي اشْتَرَاهُ مِن مِصْرَ لِامْرَأَتِهِ. Who bought Yusuf? This individual that the Quran does not even mention his name. The Quran never mentions the name of the person who bought Yusuf. He never mentions the name of the person who would bring Yusuf to his house, or rather I should say his palace, and raise Yusuf in his palace. We don't know what his name is necessarily. The Bible says his name is Potiphar, but we don't know in the verses of the Quran. In fact, the Quran, it seems as though he's not speaking of him in purpose or on purpose. Sometimes the Quran will say that this is a person who is from Egypt. That's all we know in this verse. Min Misr. He is from Egypt. Sometimes the Quran will refer to him as Al-Aziz, the mighty and the powerful one. And sometimes he will refer to him in other forms as well. But the Quran gives us very little information. What we know from the story of the Quran is that whoever this person was, he must have been a high-ranking official of the king or the pharaoh. Maybe he was a captain of the guards of Pharaoh. Maybe he was a minister of the Pharaoh. Maybe he was the right-hand man of the Pharaoh. Whatever he was, or whoever he was a high-ranking official of the Pharaoh. This is the part of the story that things now start to change. If you take a look at verse 21 of Surah Yusuf, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He uses the phrase وَكَذَلِكَ مَكَّنَّا لِيُوسُفَ. And this is how we place Yusuf in the situation that we wanted to place him in. This phrase is used 2 times in the story of Yusuf. This means that this moment where Yusuf went from being a slave to then going into the palace of this Aziz, as the Quran calls him, or this minister of the Pharaoh, as we will call him, this shows this moment was a big transition. Why is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is speaking of this moment in it being a terms of a big transition that the life of Yusuf is going through? Why is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is emphasizing this? Only 2 times in the whole story of Yusuf, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, this is how we placed Yusuf where we wanted him to be. This means this is a big transition that the life of Yusuf is going through. And why did this minister of Fir'aun, why is it that when he bought Yusuf, the first thing that he did was he came and he spoke to his wife based on the verses of the Quran? Is this something that was common during that day? That if you bought a slave, you would come and you would tell your wife about it if you were a high-ranking official? It doesn't seem that it is a common thing. Why is it that this high-ranking official of the Pharaoh did this? Inshallah, tomorrow we'll continue with the discussion and we'll answer some of these questions. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He helps us all to, inshallah, be on the straight path and learn from the lessons of the story of Yusuf alayhi salam. Before I end, inshallah, let's take a moment to recite Surah Fatiha for the marhumin and marhumat of the following families: Brother Mazhar Abbas and Sister Mehnaz and family, Dr. Agha and Dr. Uzma Mehdi and family, Brother Ali and Sister Farwa Siddiqi and family, and 2 other brothers or sisters who have sponsored the program for tonight with a loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad. Let's recite Surah Fatiha for them, their marhumin, and also all marhumin and marhumat, inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين.
سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن عليا ولي الله. أشهد أن عليا حجة الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. حي على خير العمل. حي على خير العمل. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.